Hello Gemini friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my Gemini May 2021 Astrology Must Knows Horoscope Report. It is eclipse time and this is a really big deal for everyone, but especially for Geminis because we are in the Gemini Sagittarius eclipse polarity. So we're going to talk about the wild changes that might be in store for you. We're also going to talk about the things to celebrate, and some of those are related to the eclipses, but we have lots of other things to celebrate for Geminis this month. And we'll also talk about some things to watch out for. I'm going to go in depth with telling you the fields of experience of your life that will be highlighted for you with the eclipses, as well as refer you out to some other resources that I've made for some things specific for Geminis, so that you know, depending on where you're at in the Gemini spectrum, what resources are for you. And also, I'm going to let you know whom among you are going to be most affected by this eclipse based on the degree compared to the degree of the eclipse compared to your eclipse. Okay, so we've got lots to talk about. I'm also going to give you some background about the Sagittarius Gemini eclipses, give you some dates, including when these last occurred years ago, so you kind of have perspective, and when they started up again, and the hot spots that we've had, so that you have them for your reference to see how they're manifesting in your life. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about to celebrate is the things to celebrate for Gemini. And the first thing is, of course, birthdays. So if you are a May-born Gemini, then in May you're going to have your birthday, so happy birthday. And it's a very exciting time. Birthdays are a time when the universe is wide open for your wishes. The sun in the sky, in the chart, represents desire. And of course, we live in a heliocentric reality, meaning the sun is at the center of our reality. And so when the sun in the sky gets back to the same part of your chart that it was when you were born, the same point, then that opens up a portal for wishing. Birthday wishes are astrological. So make sure to look for my video. If you just search for Annie Making Wishes Come True, you'll find my video that helps you to utilize your birthday wishes. Now, if you're watching for your moon in Gemini or rising in Gemini or other Gemini placement, even Venus or Mars or whatever you watch for, Mercury, then this report is still for you and still holds a piece of your total astrological picture. And even though you wouldn't be having your birthday if you're watching for one of those other Gemini placements instead of your sun, you're still having the sun cross over your Gemini placement, whatever it happens to be, and that still is a time of regeneration, revitalization, enhancing of the energies of whatever placement you have, and rebirth on very many levels as well. Okay, so we've got those things to celebrate. We also have Mercury and Venus and the sun moving into Gemini. Gosh, hopefully you can't hear that airplane. It sounds like it's going to land in my living room. Anyway, so you're going to be having all of these movements of the planets in Gemini, which means that all of those are going to kiss your placement. So not just the sun, but Mercury and Venus, which can bring lots of good news with money. It can bring enhancements to your self-esteem. It can bring all kinds of things related to the topics of Gemini. So some areas that are going to be very much accentuated in your life in May and June are going to be writing, editing, anything having to do with publishing projects, anything having to do with your creative expression, things having to do with travel. And this is very exciting because although different areas of the world are closing down and opening up at different times, the odds are very much increased that travel is going to be opening at this time. So you might be planning a trip, or you might actually be going somewhere, and that could be very, very welcome news. Now, one of the things to watch out for, which we'll get into, is that Mercury is going to take over its retrograde energy starting mid-month. So there are some things to look out for there. But overall, Mercury retrograde and Mercury retrograde in Gemini, which is going to be also relevant here, especially for Geminis, is a fantastic time to travel. There are just some things to watch out for. So we've got all of these yummy things going on. Also, things about communication, so getting contact from people, new contacts with people, new friendships, meeting people that can really help you, and it's just overall a very exciting time. So if you are a Gemini and you've got placements between 16 and 24 degrees, or if your birthday is around June 6th or so until around June 18th or so, then you are in are going to get multiple crosses from Mercury retrograde. So for those of you in those date ranges or degree ranges, Mercury is going to retrograde over your placement, retrograde back over, and then retrograde again. So it's going to be especially noteworthy for you, but the messages that occur can happen for any Geminis, which are wrapping up loose ends, finally getting something ready you've been working on for a while, cleaning up piles of things, clutter, getting ready for travel, like, finishing some house projects if maybe you're getting ready to step out and do things. Now note that this travel also can take place, in the close by regions. So it could be long distance travel, or it could be you're just extra busy driving around. And this month is going to be super, super, super busy. Geminis tend to be busy anyway because you can't help it. You get bored easily, so you kind of create things to do. But this is going to be a time where you're finding that you're moving around, interacting with people, and regardless of whether it's virtual connections or in-person connections, your communication is going to be supercharged, and your planning is going to be supercharged. Now, if you have to make a purchase of a car or a device or a computer or something like that, software, things like that, the first half of the month is even better for that than the second half of the month, because Mercury retrograde will start to take over. So now let's talk about some of the things to watch out for, but do note that some of these things to watch out for can still be part of the celebration, because it's going to bring some things into the forefront that you might really be excited about. So when Mercury goes into retrograde, it brings us inward and backwards. It can slow things down and it can call things into question. And it really suits people who can be most flexible. Geminis are among the most flexible of the whole zodiac because you're mutable, which means that you can kind of do this or you can do that, or you're open, and your openness can very much be rewarded this time. So like I was talking about with travel, if you have to set set dates that are not easily moved and your travel plans are not easily flexible, that might bring a little bit more stress because things are going to change. I had to make some plans at the end of May because of some things I couldn't avoid for that time frame. And already multiple things have changed with the flights that the flight dates and times have changed, and it's going to be changeable. So if you just know that going into it, and you can just relax and let synchronicity take over and check your gates, check emails from the airlines, check all your reservations extra carefully, knowing that there probably will be some changes and certain things might get called into question. So a trip might get called into question, but it might turn out to happen anyway. So just like this notable, changeable energy. Also, things coming back from the past, you might find that you are voyaging to places that you have been to before, or to family or home, and or people coming to see you. It's going to be a very, very, very major social interaction type of a time. And like I said, if you're still in a situation where you're restricted with that, then that can be virtual on the phone or in other ways. But many people are going to find that they are out with people, like humans, talking face to face and doing stuff. And that's likely to be very active at this time for you. Okay, so anything having to do with big launches, like if you want to engagements, weddings, big plans, big purchases, anything having to do with launching your business or different facets of it, finding a new job, especially if it's when you want to be permanent, agreements, commitments, contracts, you've got a major open window still from the middle of March through the middle of May. So go do all your stuff. You'll have extra focus and capacity to concentrate in April and towards the beginning of May, but that's going to start to fizzle out. So if you've got something you have to concentrate on, because I know in general, Geminis, unless you have some other superseding factor in your chart, it's super difficult for Geminis to concentrate, right? You're multitaskers, you get distracted, but the Taurus energies are going to help you to get plans made, get details tended to. And so that is actually something to celebrate as well. And just know that if you have to concentrate on something, once you start getting towards mid-month, it's going to be very difficult because all the Gemini energies are going to make you more scattered and make you harder to pin down and make other people harder to pin down as well. Now, those same Taurus placements that can bring you perseverance and, and concentration can also be something to watch out for, because they don't flow as easily with Gemini placements, and the area of your chart that they flood when they come in is your unconscious mind. And so this happens every year before your birthday, in the weeks before your birthday, or the weeks before the sun crosses over whatever your Gemini placement is, that this 12th house gets highlighted. This is the house of, I call it the Harry Potter house, because it's like the house of your fears. And it's also the house of your winning, slaying your demons, where like Harry realizes that all of the things going on outside of him are actually things inside of him, that his fears, once he conquers them inside of him, they start to disappear on the outside of him. And so that is, something that you get to look forward to this month, that you can actually conquer some of these fears that you've had, and even addictions. But you're going to have to do the work to do that, and it might feel a little scary in certain moments when they start coming up. There are some people that start to self-medicate, or start to like celebrate early, as you call it, like starting to party before their birthdays and things like this. And I'm going to put it out there that instead of doing that, I'm going to explain to you why this is, or I'm explaining to you why this goes on, because your 12th house gets flooded before the sun crosses over this part of your chart, which makes you more anxious, which makes you think more, which makes your brain cycle more, which makes you more likely to try to, have avoidance behaviors. So if instead of doing that, you choose now is the time that you're going to deal with some of those anxieties, some of those fears, some of those addictions through either, therapies, hypnotherapy, meditation, anything like that. This is, or past life regression, anything, EFT tapping, emotional freedom technique. This is a time to really utilize those tools. Now, I don't know how many of you have known this, but I have been a coach for as long as I've been an astrologer, so pretty much almost 20 years. I've been coaching people, and actually I've been coaching a little bit longer even than astrology started to take over. So as a coach, I can't separate coaching and astrology. And so I'm always looking for ways to help you to move along your self-development continuum. And this is one of those moments, okay? So knowing that it's difficult for Geminis to not be spinning, right? Because the nature of the energy of the sign actually spins in an upward spiral. That's your energy. That's why you get involved in this, you get involved in that. That's why they say you're a jack of all trades, and you just are sort of moving outward and upward, always trying to improve, always trying to do different things. But, the attention span can kind of be short. So one practice that you can do is to shore up your daily center. Okay, so the stronger your center is that you're spinning from, the more easily you can pull in when things get out of hand. Okay, like if your mind is getting too whacked out, if your body's getting stressed, you have to do things every day. Now, also because it's difficult for you to do things every day, being a Gemini sometimes, unless you have superseding factors in your chart, something that you can do is do EFT tapping while you're verbally processing to someone. Geminis in general, unless your Mercury is in a different sign, or if you have superseding factors, Geminis tend to be saying whatever they're thinking, right? So no filter, then you say, oh gosh, should I just say that out loud, right? And you also tend to verbally process through your feelings, your emotions, and through things that happened. So since it's hard for you to sit down and meditate and sit down to do a daily practice, something that I'm advising for you is to look up the emotional freedom technique, understand it a little bit. There are videos about it. There are, you can have pictures of the tapping points. I actually have it when you sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. You get a whole 28-day virtual coaching program that has daily EFT for 30 days. So you can, get that and let that be your foundation. But if you tap on the EFT tapping points while you are verbally processing to someone, let's say you're on the phone with your friend, or you're in person with a relative and you're like, oh, and this happened, and I can't believe this, I'm worried about this, and I'm upset about this. If you do your EFT tapping while you're verbally processing, you're actually making that verbal processing way more productive than it would have been if you don't do that while you're doing it. Okay, so could be a lifesaver for Geminis. It could be a daily practice that you institute that can completely change your life, and all you're doing is tapping on certain meridian points while you're already talking to somebody else. So it's really magical. I was thinking about this for you guys and thinking about what I could recommend that wouldn't be something else that you would categorize as a great idea but not be able to follow through with because of your busyness and overload. And this is something, since you can do it simultaneously with things that you're already doing. Okay, so now we've got the eclipses, and so I'm going to go into information about this Gemini Sagittarius eclipse cycle. Then I'm going to talk about some things we have seen and may see from this eclipse cycle. And then I'm going to talk about where exactly you're going to be hit by this May 26th lunar eclipse at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. The Gemini eclipse is in June. We'll go into more details about that in the June report, but I'm going to give you just a bunch about eclipses now. The reason why I focus so much on eclipses during eclipse time is because they bring radical change, crazy trajectory shifts where you're going in one direction, then all of a sudden, almost overnight, you're heading in a completely different direction, dramatic endings, exciting new beginnings, clearing up of karma in a major way where you feel like, wow, something has occurred and now certain patterns are just behind you, and brand new ways of being open up. It's a very exciting time. It can also be a very stressful time, and some of the changes that come are not welcome. Some of the changes that come are things that you've been trying to manifest for sometimes your whole life. And so it's just a very, very powerful time of extreme energies. The principle in physics that talks about matter never being created nor destroyed, that it simply changes form, is very evident at eclipse time. And we can see it happening in some common things, like for instance, a grandparent passes away and a grandchild is born, or something notable goes on like that type of thing. Somebody retires, but then they start their post-retirement new project, and it's like the energy of what is removed doesn't leave. It just changes into this other form in this brilliant new beginning. And so you will either be a person who is having that happen in this, especially May-June time frame, or you'll be a person who's watching people around you have crazy things going on, and in some cases holding space for them, because it can be, even positive changes can be pretty stressful or a lot to take in as you're going through a major transition. And a lot of times, if you're not the person going through that change, you're holding space for the other person, meaning you're there for them, you're holding their hand through it, or you're assisting them in some way. You can usually tell if you're going to be the person who's going through the changes or the person holding the space by the degree to which the sign and degree of the eclipse hits your personal planets. But since we have so many personal planets, we can't do that justice in general readings, but we can talk about some of that, which I tend to do, in the horoscopes. But some people go through both of it, where they're holding space for other people who are going through a lot, and they themselves are going through a lot of change. Okay, so those are some must knows. Now, just to give you a little perspective about this particular eclipse cycle, the Sagittarius Gemini eclipse cycle. The last time we had this eclipse cycle was March 2011 through August 2012. And now it started again on May 2020 through January 2022. So it doesn't mean that everything that happened between March 2011 and August 2012 will occur again. It means that the things that occurred in that time that were related to the signs or houses that were accented for you are going to be themes that come up again. If something bad happened then, it doesn't mean something bad will happen now. It's just the areas of life that are activated, which of course I'm talking more about in, this May and June report to tell you what areas of life will be active for you from the perspective of your sun or rising or whatever you're watching for. But in general, you can think back to that time and then notice what similar themes started to come up again around May of 2020 that have been going on. Now, the other must know about eclipses is it's like an eclipse cycle has several periods of time where there is the eclipse season, where everything gets heated up and right in the forefront, and then it kind of fades into the backdrop. And then the eclipse season happens again every 6 months. This goes on, and then it heats up, and then it kind of fades in the backdrop. So you'll also have noticed that whatever themes have come up for you, we had things that came up May, June, July of 2020. It's kind of like a pot boiling. The eclipses in the astrological perspective are not like they are in the astronomical perspective. From the astronomical perspective, they happen at that time and they're done. From the astrological perspective, there's this cycle that's working in the backdrop, and it's working on areas of your life, and it's active, and then it fades in the backdrop and it's active. Okay, so this is how I like to see this, is that in May of last year of 2020, we had the heat go up, and then in June and July it was like a rapid boil, and then you took the heat off, and then it kind of like faded out into the backdrop. And then in November and December of 2020, the heat was on again, but then, in January and then into February, March, April, we're like kind of down where the heat is off. Now, towards the end of April, the heat started coming on again of this 2021, and then May and June, we're at a full boil again with the eclipses. Then into July, it sort of starts to fade back down with the heat taken off into the backdrop. And then towards the end of the year, we'll have our final Gemini Sagittarius heat up and then fade out into January 2022 rather. And it will be done, and we'll be on to the next cycle. Okay, so in general, anything involving cars, transportation, including, guarding yourself while you're driving. You have to be extra careful during Gemini and Sagittarius eclipse cycles, because it tends to highlight transportation. And so that can bring, accidents or things with cars or vehicles or walking or your mobility. You don't have to be afraid. It's just to become more aware. So anything having to do with how we share information and how we take in information and how we share it. Education, we can see since last year, we thought that it was COVID that did this, right? But it was really a part of an astrological cycle that was bringing the topic of education and how we are getting educated into the forefront. So now we have new breakthroughs and new storylines with how we're getting educated, kids and adults. Also, how we're commuting or not commuting to work. So you can see as of, the spring of 2020, the fall for those of you down under, and now in the spring of 2021, in the fall for those of you down under, where we're back in this, okay, what are we going to do with the kids in school? Who's going to wind up staying home? What are we doing with work? People are working from home. All of this is very much related to this eclipse cycle. It's more related to this eclipse cycle than it is COVID. COVID is part of the storyline, but COVID is also astrological. And if you want more information about that, search for Annie Botticelli coronavirus and watch my very in-depth video talking about how astrological cycles are really at the source of the things that we think are related to COVID. COVID is part of the astrology, not the cause of everything that's going on. So in any case, we will see things involving international topics. Immigration has been a very hot topic since last year, especially. And we're seeing the storylines of that unfold. Anything having to do with relationships with different countries and our international business. All of that is very much related to the eclipse cycle of the Sagittarius Gemini. So all signs will be seeing those storylines heating up into the forefront. Something else that is a major must know about eclipse time and eclipses in general is that the eclipse cycle matches the North and South node transit. So for those of you who know about North and South nodes, maybe you didn't know that there was a direct relationship between the eclipse cycle and the North and South nodes. They're both running along the ecliptic. And the ecliptic is a very important area of focus in astrology, because this has to do with your karma and your dharma. So the difficult patterns that you brought in, whether it was through your own soul's, behaviors and journey, or whether it was through ancestral things that have gone on in your particular DNA, or whether it's the human consciousness that's undergoing evolution, all of those karmic pieces are represented in the South node energies. And then the North node energies speak to our highest expression this lifetime, our highest evolution, our dharma, what we came here to do. So eclipse time always is very rich with opportunities to clear karma, clear old patterns, clear programming that's not working, and set up new wiring, solidify the trace of a suggestion that's sitting there waiting to be actualized in the form of our highest destiny, taking steps into making those pathways be solid and more of your norm. So it's very much a time where you have opportunities to step into your highest expression in major ways and let go of major old patterns and become revitalized and have your life just opened up in ways that you've only dreamed of. So it's a very exciting time. I mean, what is there in the mind of the seeker that could be more important than stepping into your highest destiny and your highest expression this lifetime, right? And so the eclipses bring us on there, fate points, fate meetings, fate, endings, divine, destined, or fated endings, fated beginnings, things that have that sense of like, wow, this is really fated here. This is really destined. You'll feel that the energy of synchronicity moving you in these magical, ways that you can't, you have to acknowledge that, wow, obviously there's something else at work here. It's a very magical time. And it's a very intense time. And your nervous system will be under duress, and you'll probably need more sleep, but it may be harder to sleep, and you might need more of your nervous system support and your adrenal support. And those are ways that you can really maximize this time, because the better rested you are and the more your body has the nutrition that it needs, the easier it is for you to manage what's going on. Sometimes someone will say, well, what do these supplements and these things you talk about have to do with astrology? And in my mind, they have everything to do with astrology, because if you're trying to have the best possible experience, and you know that there are intense times coming, how you experience those intense times is going to be affected tremendously by the state of your adrenals and the state of the rest of your whole nervous system and your other systems. So if they are working well and well supported, then as the stresses come, it's easier for you to step into your superhero self and have an easier experience of the challenges that come. And the challenges, like I said, could be super positive, but still challenges just the same. Like, let's say someone buys their, dream house, and that certainly could happen now. Well, the leaving of the old house, the actual move, the logistics, there is stress involved even in the best of changes. And those are the types of things that are going to be occurring in this May-June timeframe in a very big way. Okay, so now that you have a great foundation in understanding the Gemini-Sagittarius eclipse cycle and some of the implications, let's talk about some more things specific for Gemini. The first thing is that I recommend that you watch my Eclipses in Sagittarius video. That's all Gemini placements, because that's going to give you a lot of pieces about how you might see this eclipse manifest for you. So you can either search for it organically, Annie Botticelli, Eclipses in Sagittarius, or you can go to my YouTube homepage and look at the eclipse playlist, and you'll find it in there. The second video I'm going to recommend for Geminis, all Geminis, is my Eclipses in Gemini video, because as we talked about, you start to feel and see the eclipse news coming in 4 to 6 weeks before the eclipses. So the June eclipse, you're going to start seeing the June Gemini eclipse, you're going to start seeing those manifestations come in as soon as May. So that's a hot spot this month. So you'll want to be really up on the types of things that the energy in Gemini can bring. Now, for all Geminis, I'm also going to put out to watch my Eclipses in Virgo video. Okay, and that is because even those of you who are early degree placements and will be experiencing this eclipse in the 7th house, which I'll get to in a second, it's still going to be on the line of the 6th house for you early degree placements. So you'll want to watch, every Gemini has a chance to see the energies of the eclipse in May manifest in your 6th house. And that's health, that's pets, that's your daily regimen, your self-employment work, but I go into lots more details. I mean, everything that I've seen, every way that I've seen a 6th house or Virgo, eclipse manifest in the time I've been doing this work is basically in that video. So you'll want to watch that. Now, if you are a May born or the first few days of June, you'll also want to watch my Eclipses in Libra video. And that's because for you, it's going to be in the 7th house. But like I said, it's going to be on the line between the 7th and 6th house. So it's going to be close enough to the 6th house of Virgo. That's why I'm having everyone watch for the Virgo video. But the Libra one, especially for you May born or 0 to 11 degrees, if you're watching for any other Gemini placement, you'll want to watch the eclipses in Libra. Now, all Geminis have chances to see radical changes in their relationship space and in their individual space. So their work taking on, more notoriety, major endings in relationships, major new beginnings, your life partner coming in, or breakups, divorces, things like that. It could be a closing of a chapter in a relationship. It could be the adding of a new chapter. Like, let's say you were engaged, now you're getting married, or you're married and now you're having kids, and that's a new chapter. So one chapter is ending in your relationship, like the relationship of you not having kids yet, and then the new one starts. So those types of endings and beginnings, things involving your health, things involving addictions. We spoke about this through other placements this month, but this is also highlighted by the eclipse cycle for you. And like I said, things involving pets. So you'll definitely want to watch those videos to really get as detailed a picture as possible for the ways that you might see this eclipse manifest. And it is way more powerful for you all because it's in your sign or opposing sign. Now, those of you who will be most impacted by this are those of you closest to 6 degrees. So if you have any placements close to 6 degrees, then you are going to really see this, okay? It's a chance to be super profound for every Gemini placement, but the closer to 6 degrees, or that's like May 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, those dates around there. The closer you are to those 6 degrees or those dates, the more impacted you will be. But any May born or early June born is also categorized in that, you're having the closest hit, and the closer you are to May 27th through 30th or so, or even the 6th, May 26th through the 30th or so, then, expect the most radical news of the bunch here. So hopefully this time will bring you great regeneration, wonderful new chapters opening up. It's definitely going to be intense, definitely going to feel like you have your fingers stuck in a light socket. It's going to be a little harder to stay grounded, but hopefully the practices that I suggested will really help you, and hopefully you'll feel the karma melting off from this ecliptic storyline, and that you'll see your new life opening up in magical ways. If you would like even more information on how you can maximize the starry possibilities, click on the little arrow underneath the video that says more, and that little arrow click will reveal all the notes below the video. Most of the time that I spend working is spent doing free offerings, and you can see what all those are and get the links directly to them in the notes below the video. First thing to do is go to anniehelpsyou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter. Not only will you get my happy scopes, a sneak peek into the highlights of all of the months of 2021. Right now, you can see all of that immediately, but you'll also get a more detailed overview of each month, 1 month early, the sweet and salty dates of the aspects, what you can expect from them, and a general write-up of the month ahead delivered into your inbox 1 month early. You also get a free sign-on bonus called Shine, which is my virtual 28-day coaching program. And this is very, very, very detailed, and it can really help support you in your conscious evolution and breaking out of old patterns. So you get all of that when you sign up at anniehelpsyou.com. You'll see it right on the front page. It'll say, "Hi, friend," and then it'll have space for your name and email address. The next thing to make sure to do is go to my school, lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com. It's Luminous Life Multiversity, and I've got free courses there, including one to help you ramp up your abundance called Unleash Your Money Magnet. You can also see my paid courses there, including my crazy comprehensive astrology program called Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery course. If you'd like to do astrology as part or all of your professional offering, or just become adept enough for your own process or to help other people, you will love, love, love this course, especially if you resonate with my work. And you can see that at loomlife.com and plus the other courses there. Also, to go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. That's my other beautiful website where I and a few amazing up-and-coming bloggers that I have selected to be part of this with me are giving you amazing offerings every month, and a lot of it is astrology kissed. So herbal teas for the signs and the sun's movement, hypnosis, healing frequencies for each sign. You'll love this site. It's called cozybysweetstarlight.com. Then also, don't forget about my books. I write books as well. I've got a book called Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days. And this is a beautiful book of prayers and affirmations that you can use over a moon cycle or however you're drawn to use it. Then my very, very in-depth book called Planetology, How to Align with the Natural Rhythms of the Universe. And it does exactly that. So it's a very detailed, long, comprehensive book to help you align with the starry rhythms. And another very exciting thing that I want to share this month is it's the month of my boy, Seamus. We call him Seamus Blue Moon. It's his birthday in May, and he is having some offerings that are starting to come out. So you can see some work of his artwork in the link below. In the future, you will see him teaching courses at my school. He's working on a course now. So he's also a rune master, an amazing reader of runes. So you'll start to see more by him coming soon. And so this is his beautiful launch into the public. So you can check out some of his artwork in the link below in the More button. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.